It's true, not all bourbon drinkers are huge fans of rye, but it's a category with a lot to offer. So here's 4 great ryes for you bourbon lovers to try. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Hutch, and thanks so much for joining me on this journey through the world of whiskey. So as you can tell from the name of my channel, the Bourbon Hutch, I am a huge fan of bourbon. From the very beginning of my journey in the whiskey world, bourbon was where I gravitated. I love the darker, rich caramels, brown sugars, cherries, vanillas that all kind of come in spades with the bourbon world. But as I've gotten more into exploring different kinds of spirits, especially in the whiskey world, I have come to really be a huge fan of rye whiskey. Now, that's not the case for every bourbon lover. It can be a sort of tricky transition to navigate, so I wanted to put together a list here of 4 great ryes that I've had that I've enjoyed a lot, that I think every bourbon lover could get something out of and will learn a lot through the process of trying. All of these are relatively findable, available, and affordable, so hopefully they'll be good options for you to explore in your own whiskey journey as well. Without further ado, let's just get right into the list. I'm gonna go just in terms of pricing on these bottles, and we'll work our way from lowest to highest. So first option on the more budget end for you to try is one that actually will kind of hit you with its rye characteristics, and that is Wild Turkey 101 Rye. So for me, this has a nice sort of brown sugar underlay, but it has more Christmas time, evergreen, some herbal notes as well in there. So it's going to give you a little burst of what rye has to offer. I don't think it's gonna overwhelm you with its rye presence, but it will give you a really strong sense of whether or not you like this more herbal, Christmas time, spicy, evergreen kind of side of things. If you don't, that's okay. It's only like 25, 30 bucks, maybe less than that. So very affordable option here. This also makes great cocktails. So if you don't end up loving it straight, you've always got the option to make old fashions and sazeracs and things like that with a great cocktail mixer. Next on the list is one that I think bourbon lovers in general are gonna really enjoy because of how sweet the profile is. And that is Mitchels US1 Rye. So for me, this one comes across very much like a sugar cookie or a cinnamon cookie. It's got that cinnamon brown sugar note, very smooth and buttery on the palate. Proof-wise, it's only 84.8 proof, so pretty low. These are single barrel options too, so it gives you a little bit of variation. But overall, I really appreciate this rye whiskey, and I think it's actually the best base level offering that Mitchels does. It's just really sweet and flavorful, especially for something low proof. So this is a good spot to start if you're looking to just sip a rye whiskey straight with a little bit more of a sweet profile that maybe matches or kind of transitions you nicely off of a more sweet bourbon profile. All right, next on the list is a classic of the ryes most bourbon lovers try and end up really enjoying, and it kind of is a gateway to the world of rye whiskey, because it's one of those barely legal ryes. And we'll talk about that, but that is Pikesville Rye whiskey. So this steps it up in proof considerably. It is 110 proof, probably around 6 years old, I think is the age statement on this. So nice, well-aged rye for you here. Key here though is that this is only a 51% rye. So it's got a huge amount of corn presence in it for a rye whiskey. Gives you those really nice sweet brown sugars are in here, but this one packs a heck of a baking spice, clove spice, allspice note in here as well. Really powerful with its spice, but also really strong with its sweet bourbon kind of notes, and gives you a little bit more of that corn base to work with. Great transition whiskey over from the world of bourbon. If you haven't tried many ryes, highly recommend trying to get Pikesville. This one can be a little bit spotty in terms of where to find it, so sorry if it's not super available in your area. I do think it's still worth looking for, and usually you can get this for around $50. All right, before we get into bottle number 4, which I think is the most interesting, and certainly it's the newest release on this list, I do want to say, if you're enjoying all the content coming out of the channel, would love to have you aboard for all of 2023 and beyond as a subscriber. So if you haven't already, please consider doing that. While you're at it, hit the like button and let me know in the comments below what ryes have you tried that you've enjoyed, especially if you're trying to make the transition over from bourbon, or if you really do love rye and you've already made that transition. What am I missing and what would you add to this list? All right, final bottle here, fourth on the list, is actually taking us into that finished rye category, so it gives you an extra layer of flavor, and that is Bardstown Bourbon Company's Origin Series Rye. So again, a nice 6-year-old rye whiskey with some good age on it. This one is finished in toasted cherry wood and oak barrels. So I do get a kind of strong cherry note on this one as well. Nice oaky presence as well because of that finish. So I think with that extra layer of flavor, the rye is still there for sure. It's got a nice strong rye presence, but it's got those finishing notes to give it a little bit more sweetness and fruit. And this is just a really, really solid whiskey. It is the most expensive on the list for around $70. So I will acknowledge that this one, if you're looking to just try something new and you're not quite sure yet about rye, 70 bucks can be a bit to spend. But if you're looking for a really nice bottle to add to your collection, you're interested and you like Bardstown Bourbon Company, I think this is a really great rye for a bourbon lover to try. Maybe if you have friends or can try it at a bar, it's also a great one to just taste before you buy so that you can know if you like it. But I do think you're going to end up liking it if you're a bourbon drinker because it's got some really interesting notes, and that cherry and vanilla is in there pretty strong for me, which is great. All right, everybody, that's going to be my list of 4 great ryes for you bourbon lovers to try. I think you've got a nice spectrum of experiences here, from Pikesville with that corn presence to help you make the transition. You've got Wild Turkey 101 to give you a little bit more of that herbal punch. Michter's is going to be nice and sweet, and you got a finished option as well. Again, let me know in the comments below, are there any that I'm missing on my list that you would definitely recommend others to try? And then also let me know in the comments below, just overall, do you enjoy rye whiskey? And if not, what is it that's kind of keeping you from trying more ryes? Until I see you guys again for another video, all I can say is keep drinking good whiskey, don't count out rye whiskey, and cheers.